Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I want to welcome you guys to an hour of code supporting artists through programming. Supporting us today is Gary Gould and Ebony Davis. They are from Customer Experience, and because this webinar format kind of limits our capabilities, like talking to one another and actually hearing you guys and seeing you guys, we do encourage that you guys have any questions, put them in the Q&A, so that if I'm going through things and you're not able to kind of follow along, or if I'm going too, I guess, quickly, that also helps us as well. So just keep that in mind. And then my name is Ryan Molyneux. I am a curriculum developer here at CodeHS. I started off as an instructor in psychology, saw someone in their engineering habitat and got really curious. And so from that, I kind of taught myself some engineering, and this is where I'm at. So my favorite language right now is Python, probably because after learning JavaScript, Python is just flat out fun. And so I actually built the course that we're going to be working on today. And then also here with me is Grace Liu. She is our software engineer here at CodeHS. So she'll kind of give us like a day in a life and answer any questions that you guys might have. So Grace, if you don't mind introducing yourself, that would be wonderful.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Grace. I am one of the software engineers on the team. We're a pretty small team of around 6, but I majored in computer science at Washington University in St. Louis. And shortly after, got an internship at CodeHS during one of my summers and transitioned into full-time. So I've been at CodeHS for a little bit over 3 years now.
That's awesome. So yes, Grace is definitely one of our veterans. She knows her stuff. But if you don't mind, we do have a couple of questions just to kind of get you started. The first one being, what is the best thing you can do to become a better programmer?
Yeah, so I guess this is a little non-traditional, maybe on advice, but I think finding things that you just really enjoy. The nice thing about tech is that it's like everywhere. And I feel like, during college, I pursued a lot of my passions, which was like music in particular. And I actually used sort of the skills I learned for computer science in the radio station that I was part of. And that actually got me my job, I like to say, at CodeHS, because one of the engineers at the time was also from Washington University in St. Louis, and he was also part of the radio station. And that's how I think my application stood out a bit. So I definitely recommend just like finding things that you're really interested in. And if you're into computer science, you'll always be able to figure out a way to integrate your hobbies and whatnot. And I guess my biggest advice is always, have a lot of faith in yourself. Imposter syndrome hits like every single one of us, and to, have the patience and know that you're probably doing a lot better than you think you are.
Yeah, I think that's really important to kind of highlight there, especially when you're kind of like jumping into an industry that you're not familiar with. So thank you for that. And then also, what is your favorite part about working in the tech industry?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I kind of touched upon it in my last answer, which is that you can, by being in tech, you can kind of be in sort of any field you choose, I would say, because again, every industry needs tech. So for me, because I was interested in music, there's a lot of music software out there, either for like, say, DJing or for producing music. For art, there's a lot of software as well, either for digital drawing or like Lightroom or Photoshop for, say, like photography. And any other interest you have, most likely you'll be able to apply some sort of like tech skill, or, definitely will need like a software engineer of some sort. So yeah, that's my biggest reason, I would say.
And I think one of my favorite reasons for you is that you get to actually travel and do your work at the same time. So that's like a bonus. So the third one is, have there been any projects that you really enjoyed working on since, I guess, graduating?
Yeah, so I've been at CodeHS, yeah, since I've graduated. My favorite project is also one I worked on recently. It's sort of a search launcher for the site. Right now, it's currently available only for like, teachers, but hoping to make it more available for students. The nice thing about CodeHS is that we have hackathons, which are days when we can work on sort of any project we like to that isn't work. So I started this in 2018, just sort of like oh, it'd be cool to have like a search bar. And then eventually got it to a point where it was good enough to go live. And it's really cool to see like a project that I just had in the back of my mind now be a part of our site. And also having a lot of feedback from a lot of other members of the team and being able to, work to see what people on the team wanted.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. So honestly, I don't think we have a ton of questions just because we have a lot of newbies here. I think they're really just interested in just kind of like hearing your side and seeing what all of this really means. So I really do appreciate you kind of going through it and giving them a whole like visualization of what it's like to be an engineer. So thank you. All right. So let's get started. So my goal today is to make sure that you get as much coding as possible. I'm mainly going to be covering the basics as the activity is pretty much self-explanatory, it's self-paced, and it gives you step-by-step instructions. But as we go through the course, if you find that there are any concepts that need further explanation, feel free to hit up the Q&A and just let us know. And in the meantime, to free up some bandwidth, because I'm going to run a video, I'm going to turn off my camera. So 100% promise it's totally appropriate. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about programming and design, and we're going to touch on their similarities and how they work together to create amazing products. We'll also walk through the various roles that one might actually hold on a production team. So we can take a cue from Nike. They were actually able to match up technology and customize art pieces by actually getting a group of runners together, placing pedometers and tracking devices on their shoes, and then they map their run over like a course of time, like daily runs, and I believe it was all throughout the city of New York. Each person's cadence, their weight distribution, and other attributes were saved for engineers to later kind of program into personalized art. And this image right here is a result of one person's run, which then transformed into this. So while this is one of their simpler pieces of art, it's actually pretty cool because essentially the developers were able to take data, which is just numbers, and then translate it into something that's actually aesthetically like appealing. And then for more information on their projects, you can go to the website below, and we can kind of put that in the chat as we go. And we can meet Betsy Lamb. So her story is pretty interesting. We actually interviewed her in our Coding in the Wild blog. She started with a Bachelor's of Arts in Fine Arts, but actually after graduating, she found herself kind of needing to secure a substantial portfolio and decided to teach herself how to build one. And actually in that process, she found out that just learning basic programming, she enjoyed it 100% and then eventually changed careers. And then one bonus fact about her is that she has a passion for encouraging females and people of color to pursue careers in technology. She believes that representation provides better experiences in technologies, which I 100% agree with. The more voices we have in our products, the more we can relate to other people. And you can visit some of her work in the links below. And then on to Mark Wheeler. So he's originally from the UK. However, he lives in Seattle and he works for Microsoft. He's a jack of all trades and he's definitely a creative at heart. Similar to Grace Liu, he does work in in music, but then he also does some Canvas work as well. And his projects have led over to Tidal, the music streaming platform, Microsoft, Web Lab by Google, and Xbox. And So similar to Betsy, Mark had the right idea. He wanted to use his coding for good. And so he was able to build a product that actually related to more people, especially those who haven't been seen and heard. So now that we've reviewed a few unconventional paths towards tech and design, we're going to get into what designing a product actually entails. So normally when we think of the word product, we envision something that's tangible, like when you buy a bike, when you go to the restaurant, you purchase a meal, you consume it, or when you go online and you shop for something, it's shipped over to you. However, in this particular situation, we're going to direct our focus over to the subset of tech. So think of the social media platform that you use. We still consume that, just in a different way. But actually, before it's coded, it has to be envisioned, and it's done through a lot of creativity. So to design a product, it takes an entire team to build. First, the client has an idea of what they want to create, and then they might reach out to like a web development firm. Next, they might be assigned an account manager, which is typically known as the product owner. And then after asking the client a series of questions, the product owner then takes that information over to their team of creators, which includes the user experience, user interface team, which is also UX UI. And along with UX UI, the engineering team presents information during the stand-up to communicate what is and what is not possible. They also provide projected timelines, and together they create a plan to complete the product. So from here, the product owner takes all of that information back to the client, and they form a timeline, wireframe, and a mock-up. A mock-up is a product that is actually the representation of what the product will look like. And that's exactly what you're going to create today. So you're going to play the role of a programmer who is tasked with making a mock-up for an online shop. And for this hour of code, you're going to create this using some of the fundamentals of HTML. You're going to create the name of the store, the menu items, the type of products, the descriptions, the prices, and call to action, which in this case would be the button. Now to build this mock-up, we're going to do HTML as mentioned. This is essentially like the skeleton of the project. Then you would put something like JavaScript, which would be the muscle of it. And then something like CSS or Bootstrap would be like what makes it pretty or unique. But essentially HTML just tells the browser what to expect. And then here's an abbreviated list of some of the tags that you're mainly going to be working on today. Most of them are self-explanatory with the exception of LI and UL for list item and unordered list. But as you go through the lessons, they'll definitely give you explanations of what they do. Now the syntax, or rather how we type the tags, is very important. So think of syntax as the grammar and the punctuation of code. Each tag, in this case the word body, should be lowercase. And each tag possesses a left and right arrow that wrap around the tag type. Most tags have a partner in crime known as the close tag. And then the close tag is very similar to the open tag, except it has a / just after the left arrow. And then finally, the information that you want to be read by the program is coded between the open and close tags as seen above. And then onto the metadata. We're not going to do too much work into that, but it is very helpful to know that this information is not seen by the user. This is the information that's being sent to the browser. So let me give you a representation of that. So this is an example of what you're going to see when you go into the hour of code. On the right-hand side, you see this open square. This is actually going to be the representation or the sample of what the web page would look like. So as you put your code in, you're able to test it by clicking the Run Code button here. If you ever lose your place, you can go over to the Exercise tab, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. So in this case, to create a title called Best Online Shop, we would go to the open and close tags title, and then tag Best Online Shop. Now remember, this is the metadata, so 1 through 7 is not going to show. So if I run the code, nothing's going to show over here on the right-hand side. However, everything that's between the open and closed body tags will show, or at least should show. So the H1, which is the heading tag, is going to say My Boutique. If I go to run code and hit that, it shows right there. So just to let you know, this is an hour of code, and what you type in there is really not set in stone. It's just basically to get you kind of into it, and you can be as creative as you want. If it says to put My Boutique, you can put whatever you want in there, but just make sure it makes sense as you're going through it. All right. So like I said, I wanted to give you guys as much time as possible to get to coding. So what I want you guys to do is to open up another tab and then log into the site that's on the screen right now. And then we can also paste that in the chat as well. Also, please note that if you do not have an account with us, I strongly suggest that you do, because one, you'll be able to keep track of your progress. Two, you won't be able to, or you won't have to copy and paste as you go through each activity. And the accounts are 100% free, so it's just so much easier to do it that way. But if you run into any other issues, let us know. Now, after logging in, there is a way to kind of jump over the introduction that we just currently went through, and that's called the Getting Started activity. Once you get there, it'll look similar to this screen right here. There are some icons at the bottom. The green actually mean that those are the ones that you've already completed. Yellow means that you're currently working on it, and then gray means that you haven't attempted it yet. If you want to get to the Getting Started activity, you can go to the 6th icon from the left and just jump right on in. All right, for the teachers who are still kind of broadcasting to your students, just letting you know we have about 10 minutes left, but even if after the webinar you still have any questions, go ahead and reach out to support@codehs.com and we should be able to help you. All right, so that's all we have for the Hour of Code today. Thank you so much, you guys, for attending. I highly suggest if you have any time throughout the week or even today, go ahead and visit the rest of our Hour of Codes. They're awesome. And yeah, if you have any more questions, go ahead and send that to us and have a wonderful day.